Greetings, I, Tantus Dracovin, your Lord and Emperor here at the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. Are you ready to move back into the world of darkness? I hope you are. I've got another exciting video for you today. We're heading back into the world of Changeling The Dreaming, because I have yet another Kith to talk about. Ghille Dhu. A very rare Kith that, honestly speaking, probably most players not only wouldn't play, but isn't really feasible to play because of their nature. I'll go into depths about it, but certainly speaking, an NPC or meeting one is probably more likely, but yeah, maybe you could play it, maybe you couldn't. Still, they're an interesting part of the changelings of the world of darkness, and it's going to be fun talking about them. But anyway, before we do dive into it here, whether you're joining me, of course, live over on Twitch or later on over on YouTube, please remember to give very support on that one for YouTube guys, gals and gals, you folks out there. God, my English is so bad sometimes. My YouTube folks out there, remember to like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that kind of stuff. Have any of you dealt with a Ghille Dhu? That's my question for today. A Ghille Dhu, have any of you encountered one? Because I could understand how none of you could. Why is that? Why would no one have encountered it? Well, there's a very simple reason behind that. And it starts with the book. There is one main book that talks about it. Now, I'm not saying there aren't other sources, but all the information, most of the information we have is in the Isle of the Mighty. This book is the big source for a lot of information on them. So, whether or not you can find another book that mentions them after this one, I'm not saying you couldn't, but it's going to probably repeat information from this book mainly. We have one source. So, who are the Ghille Dhu? And if you look at their spelling, yes, it is a sexy plant. I'll explain. It's spelled Ghilleddhu. Ghille Dhu. They are from the dreams of whales. They're tied to trees and to the seasons. And it's not impossible to find them outside their spiritual home of whales, but it's incredibly rare. And they view the world differently than other Kith and Kith. That's an important part, especially the Kith. So, what can we say about their history? Well, we do know a little bit about their history. In the old days, before the Sundering, a Ghille Dhu was born, burgeoned and sickened, and died along with the seasons. In spring, they awoken from their graves as babes of the forest. In summer, they grew strong, and their strength rivaled even trolls. In autumn, they grew old, but learned and nurtured. As their bodies became frail and weak with the coming of winter, they grew wise, teaching other creatures the promise of rebirth before they entered their barrows and said their goodbyes. Each incarnation was different, but the Ghille Dhu seemed everlasting. So that was the thing, is they were very baby New Year kind of coded. I think that's a very stretch for talking about it, but if you kind of come under the comparison, one of us would understand in modern days very easily the entire idea that the year ages with it, then it kind of, passes away and a new year comes in. It's the same way, but with seasons in this case. It's a reincarnation cycle that they go through every year of being born, growing, existing, aging, and dying, and becoming back. But it changed. Sundering changed it all. That first big action that happened to the world of changelings. The one that drove many to become the Dreaming, to become connected with mortals in order to save themselves. Well, the Sundering was the first thing, the Shattering was the second. So Sundering happened. Okay. The first big, major event in Changeling. Yup. People stop believing in Fae, banality's growing. What happens to Ghille Dhu? Well, their seasonal cycle of life and death began to falter. Some began to live as babes until winter. Others were often born out of the graves as mature adults. Many went mad. Some, in their madness, sought out their final deaths in cold iron, convinced they were corrupted. So this entire time period, they are breaking apart. Their cycle is breaking with the sundering, with people lacking belief and banality growing. And then with the shattering, that the other event. I meant to make sure to, keep them properly, discussed. That's when the sundering broke, where the Changeling Way was adapted, or people fled to Arcadia. In this case, there were a desperate few that followed the example of other commoners and took on mortal coils in an attempt to save themselves and reconnect with nature. There were some that went the Changeling Way. The others probably went extinct. So that's why they are a rare and, even outside their own territory, especially rare, but even rare in their own territory, Kith. Because they were suffering greatly under the sundering. And what remained, not all took what needed to happen the Changeling Way during the Shatter. So, you still have some. Just not as many. So very few, Ghille Dhu have survived. And even those that have survived are mad, hopelessly insane, forgotten their lessons of life, death, and rebirth. They pay a much heavier price for banality than other Fae. Each descent into banality sends them into a new, older seeming. I'll have to explain that, but basically it shortens their lifespan as Fae. And these very short lifespans do harken back to their pre-sundering existence, where they had 1-year lifespans. It's still a connection to that fact that they didn't live very long to begin with. So now, being so vulnerable to banality just drives them deeper into that age. It makes them vulnerable to aging. And this way, Ghille Dhu are one of the most tragic changelings. They're disconnected from once they once were. This yearly cycle of rebirth is completely gone. They're desperate to cling to what they've lost, that kind of cycle and connection to nature. So yeah, those that have some sense to them and still exist have returned to protecting sacred groves and magical places. Others are content to live out their lives in brief and simple existences. A few will be found in the company of other changelings, especially if they are dedicated to simpler goals, like protecting a sacred grove. So, yeah. There are those that find themselves protectors, others that just want to live their life to the fullest when that little hat they have of their existence and then burn out. Some, will find that commonality with others. It's a tough existence, unfortunately. Very different looking, isn't it? To go from perhaps summer to autumn. Or maybe there's a summer too, in a way. All Ghille Dhu are green-skinned. That hue changes from an almost neon green in spring to a medium green in summer and a deep green of a pine needle in autumn. Their hair is various colors, but is always gray to white in autumn. Their seeming, as a fae, is always adorned with plants related to their seemings. Flowers in spring, vines and grasses in summer, multicolored leaves and mosses in autumn. Their bodies are more cherubic and young in spring, stunningly beautiful hard bodies in summer, and gnarled and wise and elders in autumn. So I just pretty much showed you a summer, and this would be more of an autumn appearance. So we have to talk their seemings, because it is connected to the seasons, too. As I said, it's both connected to the seasons and not. The fact is, yes, between their time, between a childling, a wilder, and a grump, the different ages of a fae, as they age, exists within them. But they are connected to these 3 seasons that are their lives. Spring is when you are a child of Ghille Dhu. You're playful and inquisitive. You have a more pudgy body, bursting with life and energy. Cherubic. They take delight in playing in wild places and have a horrible tendency to climb in places they can't get down from or stay out past bedtime, do very childish things. In summer, as a wilder, they combine the beauty of the thick field of corn, the looks of a centerfold satyr bait. I love that description. Luckily, they also have the strength to hang goats from trees when they've had their fill. Hang the satyrs from their trees, basically, the goats, when they've had their fill. Track the satyr, have a great time, hang them up because they're in it for too much. As a grunt in autumn, they're wise and thoughtful, their brows furrowed with thoughts of an upcoming winter. They need to finish their task before their time is through. To understand those, and to talk about those, is to understand more about their abilities and their existence. Because we have to... I'll talk about their frailty first. Chris connected this deeply. When they suffer a chimerical death, they automatically age to their next season. The next seeming. In addition, every time they gain a point of banality, they must succeed a glamour roll or pass the next seeming. I'm explaining it mechanically because you have to think about this. When they are majorly when they are exposed to banality, a large amount of it, they have to resist aging. When they get a powerful strike of banality, chimerical death, they automatically get older. This rapid aging only affects their fey main, not their mortal seeming. If their seeming is already autumn, the fey main dies. No chance of recovery for her. The fey spirit is gone until it is reborn in another body. So yeah, their fey soul, their very existence, ages and dies rapidly. More than their physical body sometimes. Usually you'd think it'd be the opposite because that's usually the way it more is with a lot of changelings. But no. Their human bodies, their mortal bodies, may last longer than their fey souls. Very easily. Banality is incredibly deadly. Winter calls. Natural aging. It's technically unnatural to them. But because of the sundering and the shattering, they're forced into. That's my understanding. Now most Ghille Dhu are connected to the land in some way, even in their mortal seeming. Farmers, reclusive artisans, game wardens, hermits, fishermen, they avoid cities, and especially professions which would take them away to cities for long times. Those that enter into the crystals to change into a changeling, a fae, a kith in the cities, are often burnt out within a few short months or years. The rapid shift of seeming as they fall to the winter's kiss, and changes in their character that brings, can earn them a one-way ticket to the mental ward, as their minds break. That's the other thing. Their minds will break if their fey soul does. Winter will kiss them. Their fey soul will die, and their minds will be destroyed. Whatever's left of the mortal will be a shattered shell that will never recover. Now, there is an important note. I'm not going to go into details how these work, because it's a mechanical thing, and I don't normally dive into mechanics. I did talk about it to a degree with their frailty, because it was important. But they do have abilities as a Ghille Dhu. They all have a nature's bounty. This is to all their seemings. It's part of their birthright normally. They can harvest glamour from nature. Big up for them. So, it's a... Being out in nature helps them regain their glamour. Great for them. But then, depending on their seeming, their age, if they're spring, summer, or autumn, depends on the ability they have. Spin the wheel for spring. Rose and oak for summer. And wisdom of the ages in autumn. So, that is another thing. Their powers change and evolve as they age, as they change seemings, because they match the seasons they once were connected to deeply. But, yeah. That's the Ghille Dhu. As I said, they are very tragic changeling. They, in order to survive, have bastardized their existence. Those short lives where they would reincarnate don't exist the same way now. They can't do that. They can't have them. Certainly speaking, they hope that their face souls will reincarnate. But the sudden ones, they're damaging. They can't do it the same way. They can't have those short lives the same way. They have to be connected to mortality in order to survive the banality, the destruction of changeling. Their existences before all that, before all the things that happen to changelings, are anathema to the way things can work now. They're the ones that have had to survive the worst and hardest, probably of any changeling. Think about it. Where you would once have 1 year and die and be reborn, now you must spend years. And forcing things? It's worse. You must face banality, destruction of your fae, it's destruction of your mind. Not pleasant. So these few that have remained, who've joined the changeling way, who exist now in small numbers, do their best to eke out the existence they can. Maybe reconnecting with nature, protecting those places. Finding others they can help comfort. Or just finding a way to live their twisted existence to the fullest. Ghille Dhu are interesting. Certainly speaking, not impossible to play. We're talking about being a character. But they're so tragic and so hurt. They can't find a way in a city. So certainly speaking, in a world so urban as ours, it's very deadly. So it's not to say that you couldn't have adventures in a changeling as a youth. Rarely they are found outside the places like Wales and a lot of the natural areas that would be in that area of the world. Not impossible. Someone of Welsh descent certainly could have had that blood traveling to somewhere else in the world. But still, understanding what you are, the tragedy of it all, understanding and having someone out there to help you to get through the death of it all. And especially finding a way to survive if you started in the city. The stories of some of the known Ghille Dhu, as they mentioned, they're not great. None of them are. The Ghille Dhu are tragic people, and I think in a way they're an important people because they show the extremes of changing in the mortal world. The extremes of something very magical being forced into something that's not. I think that's why they're so interesting and important. And I hope you enjoyed learning about their tragedy. I enjoyed explaining it, talking to you about them. It's kind of a very emotional thing to kind of think about. That they have such a tragic existence that they have to kind of face. And there might not be anything that they or anything can do for them. They are so away from the nature that they were connected to. They try their best to recreate some semblance of those connections, those cycles. And they can't. The magic they needed from the world is gone. The dreams are gone. Maybe they're just a little bit of a nightmare left in the mind of reality. Well, not memory of those dreams left in the mind. Yeah. Like partially remembering a dream in the morning. Got a little bit of it there. You don't remember all the details. You remember the basics of your dream. You remember your dream. Maybe there's not a lot. Maybe that's you. Who knows how they'll what they'll survive as, if they continue with theirs, if they can maintain themselves. I don't think we'll ever see them resurge. I hope you enjoyed today. It was a little bit more of a tragic and sad one, and it definitely speaks volumes to have such tragic figures in the Changeling world. The fact is, there is a lot of tragedy in Changeling that is overshadowed by the fact of strength of character and survival. The Changeling way was something that these magical creatures of dreams did to continue and exist, and they maintain themselves strong. It's the strength of character of so many changelings that are out there. But yet, you have these tragedies of those that tried to hang on and maybe do, but just not the same way. It's not the same. It adds for an interesting tale. So, I hope you will join me for more stuff. If you want to join me live on Twitch, rather than just on YouTube for these, the schedule, and all these things go up a few days afterwards, usually. So you can still check it out on YouTube. Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays for tabletop stuff. Fridays is World of Darkness Day. So keep those in mind. Wednesday, 9 p.m. EST, I have a live play of a Pathfinder First Edition game. It's my current ongoing game as of this, but I do recommend checking out any of my old series of me running TTRPGs. I did also do a Vampire Masquerade Legacies of King. You can check that out. I'm still a little rusty on my running a game on stream, but that's not a bad thing to check out. Discussing Tabletop on Saturdays at 6. We talk about news of the week, deeper discussion topics in the entire world of tabletop. And yeah, I've social media link below. Discord, Twitter.com, or X.com, where the hell it is now. You know, mostly cat pics, updates on life, scheduling, when I'm going live, all those things. I do other stuff on them, but you know, you can always check me out if you're interested in just seeing me and hanging out. And while I'm doing something else, I'm always willing to talk about tabletop, especially like in between recordings and stuff like this. Definitely. So that's what I'm going to do in a minute. I'm going to go hang out with Twitch chat a little while, probably just games and stuff like that. But you know, YouTube, thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this, and will come join us another day. But until that next time, I bid all of you a deep and wonderful farewell.